Beyond Barbarossa special episode. Support for Ukrainian war refugees. Welcome to a special episode of Beyond Barbarossa, the first English-language podcast in the world to focus on the Eastern Front of World War II. I'm Scott Burry, podcasting from the Redbeard Studio on traditional Anishinaabe Algonquin territory, also called Ottawa, in the free, independent, and sovereign country of Canada. This is a special episode because today I'm fulfilling a promise I made to you, my listeners. When I began this podcast 3 years ago, I promised that the proceeds of what it earns through Patreon or advertising would be donated to support Ukrainian refugees until the evil war was over. I'm talking about refugees and survivors from Russian President Vladimir Putin's illegal, brutal, evil war in Ukraine. It's in its fourth year now, and I don't see any sign of it ending soon. Yes, there are hopeful signs and portents, but, well, that's not the purpose of this podcast. The purpose of this episode is to announce that, thanks to your support, listeners, Beyond Barbarossa has made a meaningful contribution to the Canada-Ukraine Foundation's Ukraine Humanitarian Appeal. To tell us about the Ukraine Humanitarian Appeal, what it does, and its impact, we're joined by Valeriy Kostyuk, Executive Director of the Canada-Ukraine Foundation, which is based in Toronto. Valeriy, what is the Ukrainian Humanitarian Appeal all about?
Well, thank you, Scott, for having me here, and thank you for your support of Ukraine. Ukraine Humanitarian Appeal is a joint program between Canada-Ukraine Foundation and the Ukrainian-Canadian Congress. Canada-Ukraine Foundation has been established 30 years ago in 1995 to coordinate efforts on behalf of the community, on behalf of Canadians, to coordinate efforts to support Ukraine as a developing, democratic country. The foundation, supported education programs. We even supported observerships for elections, provided scholarships, worked on the medical side of things, also Holodomor education. And then when the initial invasion of Ukraine started, the occupation of Crimea and the war in Donbass started
in 2014, correct?
2014.
That's important, I think, for people to understand that that's been going on for 11 years now.
Yeah. And in 2014, we started a program called Canada-Ukraine Surgical Aid Program that does reconstructive surgeries for veterans and civilians that are impacted by the war. From 2014 to 2022, we were expanding the work that we do in delivering humanitarian aid and delivering meaningful and impactful programs on the ground in Ukraine. A couple of weeks before the full-scale invasion in January, I think the entire world was seeing signals that something's going to happen. And no one knew, was it going to be a full-scale invasion or was it going to be activization of the withstandings in Donbass? No one knew what was going to happen. But we were getting signals that something is going to happen. So together with the Ukrainian-Canadian Congress, which is an umbrella organization of all Ukrainian organizations in Canada, and a big advocate in Ottawa, and with for the federal government and with the provincial government, and also with Canadians, an advocate of Ukrainian Canadian community here.
Right.
So together with them, 3 weeks before the full-scale invasion, we launched the Ukraine Humanitarian Appeal, knowing that the need will be there, but we never imagine what kind of support, the scale of the issue, and what kind of support Ukrainians will need. So because of our 26-year-old history leading up to the full-scale invasion, and having the experience of providing the support between 2014 and 2022, we were ready for the full-scale invasion in 2022. The Ukraine Humanitarian Appeal has become this thread that connected Canadians and Ukrainians at the very start of the full-scale invasion. The first shipment of aid that we've sent to the border of Ukraine and Poland has arrived within the first 48 hours of the invasion starting.
And what was that? Was that like goods or
food? It was the immediate support. It was the immediate support that displaced people need. From food boxes to blankets to beddings and etc. Medicines. The immediate support that they needed. As the full-scale invasion has progressed and the war has progressed, of course, the demand has been raising, and we've seen an outpour of Canadian generosity in response to this unjust war. So the program continued to grow, the demand continued to grow, and it continues to grow. So Ukraine Humanitarian Appeal has become this unifying factor for the Ukrainian Canadian community, and an avenue for Canadians to provide aid to Ukraine effectively and sustainably in Ukraine. And we continue to do so to this day.
So can you tell me or give the listeners an idea of how much money, is it mostly money now, or are you still looking for food and blankets and clothing and things like that?
So to date, Ukraine Humanitarian Appeal, through this joint venture between CUF and the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, we've sent over $95 million worth of aid to Ukraine.
Holy cow.
About 20 million of it is in-kind support of high level, high value equipment from the Canadian government and from other partners. The current, if at the very beginning people need the immediate support, like boxes, Pampers, hygiene product, clothing. In Canada, it was assistance for displaced peoples. Right now, those needs are still there. Also, the needs for the long-term programs, for the long-term support that Ukrainians need today. So right now, what we're also working on, in addition to providing Ukrainians with essentials, we're looking at support. We're currently supporting programs that help Ukrainians be sustainable long-term.
So can you give me an example then of long-term supplies or long-term, I don't know, whatever you're supplying that to keep people going over a long term?
So for instance, in I believe it's in 2023, we've worked with Thornhill Medical and with the government of Canada to provide 100 SLC moves. They're like medical javelins. Your listeners can Google what they look like.
Can you say that again? What is it?
They're called SLC moves. They are manufactured here in Canada by Thornhill Medical. And they are like medical javelins. So at the beginning of the full-scale invasion, Ukrainian army had the javelins that allowed them to defend themselves against tanks. These are emergency response multi-purpose units that save lives.
Okay.
There's just, if your listeners want to learn more about them, they can Google it. But but the government of Canada has provided some excess stock. We shipped it to Ukraine, and then right now we're working together with Thornhill Medical to maintain this equipment. So it's an example of long term. Okay. We're also supporting we're providing multi-year support to veteran programs and mental health programs in Ukraine. Because quite often we talk about PTSD, but Ukrainians are not in post-trauma. They are currently in the
Current trauma, right?
of
Right.
developing a mental health injuries and so on. Similarly, we're working on rehabilitation programs. We are also working on power and electrification programs, essentially assisting Ukrainians to get through the power outages. Because Russian Federation targets power and electrification infrastructure, civilian infrastructure, I want to
Right.
add, that impacts essential services across Ukraine, including impacts hospitals, water supply, schools, you name it. So um, we're looking at how can we help Ukrainians get through these constant bombardments of civilian infrastructure, kind of decentralizing, let's call it that way, their dependency to the main source. So we've been working with hospitals, we've been working with other essential services in order to provide them with backup generators, with batteries, solar tarps, and stuff like that. So that allow them to charge these. We also provide the ambulances, for instance. We've sent ambulances, actually probably a couple dozens. Also, we also support. We also, we're also helping Ukraine with humanitarian demining. So we're helping communities to make sure that they are safe, so that kids can go to school, farmers can farm, and etc., as well as educating people about mine action.
So, can you tell me how does the Canada-Ukraine Foundation, what role does it actually play in demining fields in Ukraine?
So we work with not only fields. I just give you an example. There's a variety of programs that we fund. Well, we work together with we've provided the emergency response services with demining robots.
Oh, okay.
As well, and as well as we work with the Ukrainian Demining Association, which both educates people and communities, and also participates in the efforts of demining, let's say, fields, civilian, areas, and so on and so on. So that's a long-term program that Ukrainians need, not only in post-war, but even right now, because the amount of drones, unexploded ordnance that is currently in the communities is very high. So that's what we do through Ukraine Humanitarian Appeal on behalf of Canadians. And something I would also like to highlight is that the programs that we've funded through Ukraine Humanitarian Appeal on behalf of Canadians have impacted lives of 6 million people in Ukraine. So I think that's something that we as Canadians can be proud of.
Can you tell me a little bit about some of these programs then?
So some of these programs, by the way, I invite your listeners to visit our website and read our 2024 annual report.
Yes, and there will be a link in the show description and show notes and on the webpage for this episode, as always.
So some of the programs that we've supported in 2024 that are very special are in July of 2024. Russian Federation has attacked Ukraine's state-of-the-art children's hospital, Akhmedit. So we funded programs aimed at oncology support, at cardio support departments, and also supporting them with equipment. So we supported medicines, we supported equipment that they need in order to revamp their capacity, and etc. We also had in 2024 a very effective winterization program. And who knows how to deal with winter better than Canadians? We've provided, wood burning ovens. One thing that we never thought and we provided thousands of them. Something that I've never thought in my life, that in the 21st century we'll be procuring wood-burning ovens for people to get through the winter. But when you're in frontline regions, this is the only way that you can survive. We funded hygiene boxes through that winter program. We provided displaced people who moved from the east to western Ukraine with beds, bed sheets, mattresses, and etc. We provided communities with essential seasonal medicines. We provided rechargeable stations that allow the Ukrainians to get through the winter while the power outages are happening. And we also provided winter clothing and other essential provision that allows Ukrainians to get through it. Even like niche things like celiac meals,
Oh, okay.
for celiac people. So that's like when you're looking at these very specific issues, there's never enough of anything when you're at war. But there's also these groups that have very unique conditions,
Right. Yes.
that it's more difficult to deal with when you're in the state of war. We also
Yeah.
temporary shelter for people that needed shelter during the winter time. So there's a big diversity of programs that we supplied in 2024. Also, like backup power,
Mhm.
in hospitals, like Ukrainian power system last winter and this spring, this spring that just passed, had issues with the power supply. And the thing is, it's not only about power being out. A lot of hospitals have backup generators, but it takes about 15 to 30 minutes to start them up. And in hospitals, seconds, minutes can be life-changing. It can be a question between life and death. So what we've ended up doing is providing portable batteries that you can charge using a solar tarp. So it's not a solar panel per se, but it's a tarp that is portable that you can charge. Or you can use these batteries, for instance, even when the power supply is going.
Right.
Because the issue with hospitals is when the power voltage is jumping up and down, it impacts the high level expensive equipment.
Yes.
We're also providing equipment in order to deal with that. And finally, I think our legacy program that celebrated 10 years last year is Canada-Ukraine Surgical Aid Program that we started in 2014. So it's a huge demand in Ukraine.
Those are amazing programs. Valeriy, I want to ask you about the training programs, but first, I think we need to take a short break. Listeners, we'll be right back.
As Scott elegantly describes in each episode of Beyond Barbarossa, the war on the Eastern Front was truly gargantuan, both in terms of its geography and its destructiveness. But given that there is so much territory to cover, and that so many millions of men were involved in the fighting, it's perhaps inevitable that some battles from the Eastern Front get overlooked. I'm David Sumner, and I'm the host of Europe at War, a weekly podcast exploring lesser-known battles and stories of the Second World War, with a particular focus on the Eastern Front. From the drama of thousands of trapped German soldiers and terrified civilians attempting to break out of the Halba pocket, to the unexpected and blistering counterattack launched by German forces on the Red Army during the Battle of Bautzen, many of the Eastern Front's most dramatic battles, particularly those which happened towards the end of the war, have long been neglected by historians, and their stories have remained untold until now. So to hear these incredible tales from the Eastern Front and more, check out Europe at War, available on all podcast platforms. Thank you. Now let's get back to the show.
Did you know that the cappuccino was invented by a Ukrainian? Or that many first names, like Philip and Agatha, were brought to Western Europe by Ukrainian princesses? Or that a Ukrainian was the first female given the rank of officer in a modern army? Well, if you didn't, and even if you did, you can learn more on my podcast, Wandering the Edge, a podcast about Ukrainian history with a spot of travel, and all in English. And if you like Beyond Barbarossa as much as I do, because, well, it makes my life a whole lot easier since I don't have to do any episodes deep diving into the Eastern Front of the Second World War, please take a listen to Wandering the Edge for a deep dive into Ukrainian history, culture, and traditions. Find out more on wanderingtheedge.net. And now let's get back to Scott exploring and explaining the Eastern Front of the Second World War.
Welcome back to this special episode. I'm joined through technology by the Executive Director of the Canada-Ukraine Foundation, Valeriy Kostyuk, to talk about the vital work the foundation is doing. Valeriy, you mentioned before the break surgical aid, you're training people to assist.
It's actually, by the way, good thing that we're expanding on this topic because CUF is starting a campaign tomorrow from September 19th through November 2nd, aimed at supporting Ukraine's medical heroes, providing them with everything they need in order to successfully save lives in Ukraine. The Canada-Ukraine Surgical Aid Program, led by Dr. Antonishin, founded by Dr. Antonishin of Sunnybrook, has two tracks. One is actually conducting complex surgeries, reconstructing faces. We have a story of Alexander who lost his jaw in 2022 at the front. We completely reconstructed it, and he even sent us a video eating soup for the first time in years.
Wow.
So a couple of missions for Canadian surgeons to do that. We even have surgeons from Canada, they're all volunteers, by the way, who do reconstruction of arms, of hands. And they can put together the bones that were damaged, and etc., and allow a person to be able to use the hand again. And actually, same thing with legs. Some people, like Ukrainian surgeons right now, given the amount of demand that exists, they stabilize people.
Mm-hmm.
We bring them back to normality, getting them back on their feet, reconstructing arms, legs, faces. So this program is aimed at that. In 2022, after the full-scale invasion, we moved the program into Poland, but it was a little difficult. It was logistically difficult.
Yes.
After taking appropriate precautions, we moved the program back to Ukraine, and it has come back this summer.
So we have Canadian doctors, Canadian surgeons going to Poland for a while, but now Ukraine to perform these surgeries.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. How many surgeons are involved in the program?
Depends on the mission and the demand. Sometimes it's about a dozen people going. Sometimes go up to 60 people. We had our missions change in sizes depending on the demand and the types of patients that we have. But that's one side of the coin that I've explained to you. The other side of the coin is the educational portion. So we also train Ukrainian surgeons to do these complex surgeries. So we bring Canadian talent, Canadian surgeons and medical professionals into Ukraine. They conduct surgeries and at the same time train Ukrainian surgeons to do these complex operations. And that is also another aspect of the sustainability. So, that's something that a program that we're also very proud of.
Yes, that sounds fantastic. Has the Canada-Ukraine Foundation been involved in bringing people from Ukraine to Canada or, elsewhere to safer places in the world?
We've had a very special separate fund that we've opened. It's called Displaced Persons Fund. And that fund was providing support to Ukrainians that have arrived to Canada under the Canada-Ukraine Emergency Travel Authorization. So QIT, the abbreviation is. So we've been funding ESL programs, housing programs, food, shelter, clothing here in Canada, ESL classes, job fairs, and etc. So we've had a very, very robust program here. When it comes to bringing people, I wouldn't say that the Canada-Ukraine Foundation has been directly in the business of sending planes, but we've been helping people. We've been also helping Ukrainians in Poland for a very long time to fill out. So we had this program where we've sent volunteers to help Ukrainians fill out the application forms for the QET visas. So we've helped that way. When it comes to displaced people, we've been helping internally displaced people as well. So through various programs that we had. I think a unique way that we've helped Ukrainians was on the file of Ukraine's abducted children. So, as you know, Russia has forcibly deported children, abducted it, which, by the way, according to the UN definitions, it's a sign of genocide.
It's a genocide, yes. And it's definitely a war crime.
So there's 19,000, documented 19,000. The real number is much higher, probably.
Well, that documented number has been the same for close to 3 years now. So yeah, it can't be the same now.
Well, I mean, we've been working with an organization called Save Ukraine, which is one of the NGOs that does the rescue missions of getting the children back. And over the last 3 years, they've managed to return, I think, under 1,000 children. Under 1,000. The 19,000 number, the documented, it's in the high. It's actually shy of 20,000 to be exact.
Yeah.
And that's only documented.
That's only documented, and that number is an old one. To wrap up, Valeriy, I'd like to ask for a bit of background about the Canada-Ukraine Foundation for our listeners. What is the overall purpose of the organization, and who are the members?
CUF has been established in 1995, so we're actually celebrating our 30th year this year. Canada-Ukraine Foundation has been founded at one of the Ukrainian-Canadian Congresses, triennial congresses. And CUF's, the vision was that CUF would be created to help Ukraine's development, the development of it as a democratic nation with a civil society that develops culture, tradition, defends language, strengthens partnerships between Canada and Ukraine. And with the mission that by supporting, funding, managing humanitarian, economical, governance, and rule of law in Ukraine. So to summarize this in a more comprehensive way, CUF was established to deliver aid to Ukraine on behalf of Ukrainian Canadian community and the Canadian society. We are an organization that is governed by a board of directors, all volunteers, all with very, very specific skills. We have some retired ambassadors of Canada on our board. We have lawyers. We have medical specialists. We have people from the financial sector, people from the public service, people who bring, with financial background, even civil society leaders. So our board is even we have a couple of retired servicemen and women who served in the Canadian Armed Forces. So we bring, our board has a diverse set of skills. And plus, we have various committees. So we have of course, Ukraine Humanitarian Response Committee that oversees our Ukraine humanitarian appeal. We have Health Advisory Team that consists of additional volunteers who are not on our board, but are from the health sector. We have a Civil Society Committee that works on, for instance, on the abducted children issue and prisoners of war and etc. We also have an education committee that supports educational programs in Ukraine, and that committee also has additional volunteers who come from the education sector. We also have a very interesting program that we support that is also in the CUF ecosystem called Canadian Friends of Hockey in Ukraine. So we also take part in bringing a little bit of Canadiana to Ukraine as well.
So what do you sponsor? Hockey tournaments or?
Well, uniform. So it's a tool. It's a tool for Canadian hockey clubs essentially to send hockey equipment to Ukraine. So and we also have a very special project that we're bringing to life right now, specifically sledge hockey.
Good.
So we also try to make hockey inclusive. We also have a children's rehabilitation center called Jarolo that is also a project of us. And also, we even have an Aid for Artists fund established by arts professionals, arts workers who are mobilizing the Canadian art sector around supporting Ukrainian artists in Ukraine. So we are, we have very, very strong volunteer support, whether they serve on the board or they serve in the committees. But we're fortunate to have this type of collaboration.
Oh, that's fascinating. And I think this is all really worthwhile. It's really encouraging to hear about all these different programs and initiatives. And as I said, one of my goals when I started this podcast was to take proceeds from it and make a donation that would support Ukrainian war refugees. And I think this is what you've described as really fits into that very well. So I'm very happy to say that I can today make a donation of $300 to the Canada-Ukraine Foundation.
Thank you so much, Scott, for your generosity and the generosity of your listeners, right, who have made this possible. I have to say, what's very special for me as a Canadian Ukrainian is that we as Canada-Ukraine Foundation are a fruit of the Canadian society, let's call it that way. Through the support of Canadians like yourself, your listeners, and others, we are able to deliver these programs in Ukraine. We're able to deliver change on behalf of Canadians. And when the geopolitical world is changing, and some of our Ukraine's partners and our partners too may be coming off as being unreliable anymore, we as Canadians are stepping up and filling in these gaps. So I have to say I'm very proud that together as a Canadian society, in the times of need, we're able to come together and always do the right thing. So thank you, Scott, for your generous support of our efforts and supporting the displaced peoples that have been impacted by the war. Thank you. And if your listeners want to learn more about Canada-Ukraine Foundation, they can do so at cufoundation.ca.
cufoundation.ca. And as I promised, it will be in the webpage for this episode and in the show notes on your podcasting platform. So once more, I'll say goodbye. Thank you very much, Valeriy. That was Valeriy Kostyuk, the Executive Director of the Canada-Ukraine Foundation, located in Toronto, Ontario. Take care. So to repeat one more time, listeners, to learn more about the vital work funded by the Ukraine Humanitarian Appeal or to make a donation, go to cufoundation.ca. If you're not listening in Canada, you can look for good organizations in your country that help the innocent people affected by the unjustifiable invasion of Ukraine or in conflict zones elsewhere in the world. Just make sure they're legitimate charities who are actually delivering for the people that they say they are. As always, I'd love to hear from you. Do you have a comment, a question, or a correction? Let me know. Send an email to scott@beyondbarbarossa.ca or a message to the Beyond Barbarossa Facebook page. You can also reach me, Scott Burry Author or Scott the Writer, on Instagram and Blue Sky. Please consider following Beyond Barbarossa on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hit that follow button now. I also really appreciate a rating or a review on any podcast listening platform. That helps other people find out about Beyond Barbarossa. I know. What does Ukraine in 2025 have to do with the Eastern Front of World War II? Well, much of the fighting there happened on Ukrainian territory. The biggest encirclements, some of the biggest battles, some of the greatest suffering. And I'm sure you too are aware of some parallels between then and now. I've explored those parallels in a number of interview episodes of this podcast. Moreover, it's easy to draw a line from the end of the Second World War, the establishment of the United Nations, the new geopolitics established then, the Cold War, the dissolution of the USSR, and the subsequent rise of Vladimir Putin, to today's war in Ukraine and the hybrid war between Russia and the West. Once again, I want to thank all who have supported this podcast through Patreon. Patrons get episodes early and ad-free, and usually with maps and historical photos. If you'd like that, you can join at any level by sending your web browser to patreon.com/beyondbarbarossa. Original music was composed and recorded by Nicholas Burry. I'm Scott Burry. Until next time, keep your paddles in the water. Slava Ukraina et vive le Canada.